course, here it is, a nice Friday morning, and I am here to record myself going through the escape room for weathering, erosion, and deposition. I'm here in one of my classes pages. I've gone ahead and uploaded the geologist journal as a document here within Schoology as well. So as I go over to the tab, here we're at the beginning, click here to accept. You can still access the recording sheet on this link if you so choose, but again, it is uploaded to Schoology. Click here to begin. At this point, I assume that you've already gone ahead and watched the video, but the video is right here. I'm not going to spend 4 minutes of this video's time to watch the video. Anyways. So before you begin, record your starting time in the Geologist Journal. You can see that it is 8:04 a.m. So I'm going to put that in. Here's your ticket to Arizona to see the South Coyote Buttes Wilderness. What seat will you be sitting in while you are on the airplane? So go ahead and take a look at this plane ticket. Pause here until you find it, and we can see that the seat number is 26B. So I'm going to go back to my geologist journal, type in 26 capital B, and I'm also going to use that towards answering the password here for Arizona. 26B. No. All right, so we are now in the South Coyote Buttes of Arizona. I will give you two options. I'm either going to read this right now, or if you want to read this on your own, you can fast forward to the time that you see on the video. You can fast forward to the time that's listed there. So, identifying effects of weathering. Rocks and other minerals that make up Earth's surface are matter, so rock and other materials cannot be created or destroyed. They can be changed. Weathering is the process by which rock materials are broken down by the action of physical and chemical processes. Weathering changes rocks by breaking them into smaller and smaller pieces, or by dissolving and removing some chemicals within the rock. Fragments of weathered rock, called sediment, are an important part of soil. Sediment can build up in layers on Earth's surface to form rock formations, sand dunes, and other features. When it comes to weathering, not all rocks are created equal. Some rocks are more resistant to weathering than other rocks. Resistance to weathering is affected by the composition of or chemicals that make up the rock. Surface area also affects a rock's tendency to weather. A large block of rock will weather more slowly than smaller broken pieces of the same rock will. This difference is because the smaller pieces have more surface area exposed to agents of physical and chemical weathering. Physical and chemical weathering are the two main types of weathering. Physical weathering. Physical weathering is the mechanical breakdown of rocks into smaller pieces. Physical weathering involves only physical changes. Rocks can be physically weathered by temperature changes, pressure changes, and interactions with plants, animals, water, wind, ice, and the force of gravity. So we have types of physical weathering where water can seep in and freeze and crack, plant roots, and abrasion. Plants are not the only living things that can cause physical weathering. Animals physically weather rocks in a variety of ways. Burrowing animals dig in soil and expose or displace rocks. Even strolling along a well-worn path in a meadow exposes buried rocks to wind, water, air, and other agents of weathering. Chemical weathering is the breakdown and decomposition of rocks as a result of chemical reactions and processes. Unlike physical weathering, chemical weathering changes the composition of rocks through a chemical process. It weakens or dissolves rock over time. Agents of chemical weathering include air, water, and plants. For example, groundwater, which is water that flows through rock below Earth's surface, can contain natural acids that dissolve rocks. underground caves form in this way. So we have acid precipitation, we have iron that rusts and oxidizes, and also we have plants such as lichens and mosses that can produce weak acids as well. Earlier, you learned that the surface area and composition of rock affect its rate of weathering. Other factors that affect rates of weathering include location and climate. Rocks on steep slopes are more likely to be displaced by gravity and exposed to wind, water, and air. Rocks in cold climates are more likely to experience physical weathering caused by cycles of freezing and thawing. In contrast, chemical weathering occurs more rapidly in warm, wet climates because warm temperatures increase rates of chemical processes. Both types of weathering tend to happen more slowly in dry climates. Move on to begin to solve this first puzzle. I know that there are a few questions to answer about some of the content that we just read on weathering. So I went ahead and I answered numbers 1, 2, and 3, all of which talk about specific types of weathering. So first, different types of physical weathering that can be found on this page here. And so I answered that physical weathering happens when water freezes and causes rocks to crack, or when plant roots split rocks, and abrasion from wind, ice, water, or gravity. As for chemical weathering, on that page that I had just opened, I had said that chemical weathering happens when acid rain dissolves a rock or oxidization breaks the rock down. Lastly, number 3, how wind and water can cause weathering. So this is just pulled from a bunch of different sections, but wind and water can cause weathering through abrasion, freeze-thaw cycles, wave action, or chemical reactions. Now I'm going to move back to the Rebus puzzle, and this puzzle is going to help us get into Glacier Bay. So, this first word, they have the word weather minus WEA plus the letter O at the beginning. That is other. The next word is factory, but the Y equals S. That means it is factors. Okay, the word chat, but now the C turned into a T. That is the word that. Whoops, not tat, but that. Okay, this one. So we have Africa minus RICA, so AF plus knife minus the first 3 letters, so that would be FE. So AF, FE, and then CD, but the D is equal to a T, so AF, FE, CT, that would be effect. Next we have date, but D equals R, so that would make it rate plus an S, so rates. Next we have ox, but the X equals an F, that is of. Okay. Next one we have weather plus ring minus the R, so weathering. Next we have rain minus the RA, so IN. Clubs minus BS is CLU, so INCLU. CD minus the C, but plus E, so INCLUDE, include. Lock, but the K equals an A, so LOCA, plus tie, but the E equals an O, so TIO, LOCA, TIO, plus N, location. Ant, but the T equals a D, and. And so we are left then with the blank. And so we have to go find this sentence. It says fill in the blank. The sentence is found in the text that you read. So if I go back up to this paragraph right here, I'm reading, and now I'm finding this sentence here. Other factors that affect the rates of weathering include location and climate. And so the password must be climate. All right, so the password is climate, and I am going to move on over to Glacier Bay. Enter in CLIMATE. All right. Now we've moved on to agents of erosion and deposition. Again, if you want to read this on your own, go ahead and do so. If not, I will go ahead and read it. You can fast forward to this time, though. Picture a fast-flowing stream. Rocks tumble together, breaking up into sediment that is carried away and dropped in a new place. Some of the rock material dissolves in the water and is carried downstream. Erosion is the process by which wind, water, ice, or gravity transport weather materials from one location to another. Deposition occurs when the eroded materials are dropped or laid down. Erosion and deposition, like weathering, do not destroy matter. Instead, they move and deposit matter in new places. Wind and water. Recall that wind and water can cause weathering through abrasion. Wind and water are also agents of erosion and deposition. Water erodes as it flows above ground through streams or underground through spaces in rock. Wind erodes as it blows over surfaces and lifts or pushes sediments. When wind and water lose energy and slow down, they drop their sediments in deposition. One of the most powerful agents of erosion and deposition is ice. A glacier is a large mass of ice that exists year-round and flows slowly over land. The weight of the glacier, along with gravity, help it move over land. As glaciers move, they act like a conveyor belt, eroding soil, sediment, and rock, even large boulders, over great distances, and then depositing the materials elsewhere. Glaciers can form jagged peaks or flatten and scoop out large sections of land, creating valleys. The Great Lakes are huge depressions formed by glaciers and later filled in with water. Glacial deposits can create long, winding ridges or rocky mounds of sediment. Gravity. Energy from the sun powers the movement of wind and water, but the force of gravity, which attracts matter to Earth's center, also plays a role in driving these agents of erosion. When wind slows down, its load of sediment drops to the ground because of gravity. Rocks, boulders, and soil fall down slopes because of gravity. Water flows downhill through valleys and waterfalls because of gravity. Gravity is the main force behind sudden rockfalls and landslides that can change the shape of a mountain. Scales of weathering, erosion, and deposition. Weathering, erosion, and deposition can happen over a wide range of timescales. Wind can change the shape of a sand dune in minutes. The erosion that forms a canyon can take place over millions of years. The size of the changes caused by weathering, erosion, and deposition can vary too. Some changes, such as acids weathering a rock, affect Earth's surface on a small, localized scale. Changes such as the movement of an ice sheet can affect a whole continent. Continent. By studying these processes, you can reconstruct past geologic events, such as the massive flood that occurred in the northwestern United States over 10,000 years ago. You can also make predictions about future events. It's that the last two questions can both be answered from this reading when reading about erosion and deposition. So the first question was number 4, wind and water can cause erosion and deposition when, and I just pulled this right from the book, transporting sediment and depositing it in a new location. As for how weathering, erosion, and deposition can happen on both small and large time and spatial scales. I pulled this directly from literally this last paragraph where it said scales of weathering, erosion, and deposition. I used the examples directly from this. They can happen quickly when wind changes the shape of a sand dune in minutes. They can happen slowly when forming a canyon. They can happen in a large way when a giant sheet of ice moves over a continent, or they can happen in a small way when acids weather a rock. Now moving back to the puzzle, it wants us to watch the glacier video. So inside of the Schoology folder as well for you to go ahead and watch. It is typed glacier video. So go ahead and watch that. And now after watching the video, in the video, the narrator compares glaciers that have picked up debris to blank scraping rock against itself to cause erosion. So after watching the video, I know that it was described as sandpaper, sandpaper. It should get us in. Okay, so I'm going to go enter that in to the customs lock. Okay, so now moving on to the customs here. So you've been stopped at customs while traveling through Canada to get back to Michigan. You need to show what you know in order to continue your journey. Answer the questions from page 20 in your workbook. Record the answers in your geologist journal. The answers will reveal your password to move past customs and head back home. Enter the password in your journal under the Michigan lock. All letters entered will be capitalized. There are no spaces. So as we see inside of the Michigan lock, there are 3 answers here, 2 answers here, 1 for 5, 1 for 6, and 1 for 7. So for number 3, we know from the geologist journal that there are 3 correct answers. So for which of the following can you find evidence in this photo? Choose all that apply. Okay, erosion, deposition, chemical weathering, and physical weathering. Now when looking at this picture, the only thing that I'm really not seeing is any sort of evidence of acid rain or any other sort of like weird chemical stuff. So I'm going to say it's not C, and I'll say the A, B, and D, which all seem to be pretty likely. I'm going to say those are the correct answers there. So I'm going to enter that into the sheet. Here's A, here's B, here is D. For question number 4, there are 2 correct answers out of these 3. Which processes could be primarily responsible for the formation of the alluvial fan shown in the photo? Select all that apply. A. Windstorms coming through the base of the mountains into the valley. Water flowing down from the mountains and depositing sediment at the base. I know that one's definitely true. Rocks and boulders falling down the mountains and piling up at the base. I believe C is true too. Windstorms are not going to be a big cause of the alluvial fan, so I'm going to go with B and C. For numbers 5, 6, and 7, only 1 correct answer. Number 5, which of the following is a factor in weathering caused by gravity? Presence of living organisms in the rock? No, that's not gravity. Presence of water at one end of the glacier? That's not gravity. Slope of the ground that the glacier is on? Yes, I believe it's that one, but let me double check. D, size of the boulders at the base of the glacier? No. So 5 is C. Question 6. Which evidence in the picture best illustrates the occurrence of deposition? Which evidence in the picture best illustrates? Okay. The glacier ending in the water? No. Because deposition has to deal with sediment being dropped off. The color of the rock formations? No. Areas of water where the glacier may be meeting? No. Rocks and sediment at the edges of the glacier? That is definitely it. And question number 7. What type of physical weathering could cause a rock to break apart? Abrasion of the surface caused by rocks being moved under a sliding glacier. Gravity acting upon the loose rocks and dirt in the area, or water refreezing in the rock crevices. Abrasion more is like sandpaper. C, where it talks about thawing, that like water seeps in and literally splits it in half. So I'm going to go with C on this one. Okay, so that means our password is these letters in order. So the password is going to end up being in all caps, A, B, D. B, C, C, D, C. All right, so we have our password of ABD, BC, CDC. Let us try that to get into Michigan. Again, ABD, BC, CDC. All right. Vocabulary. You have landed home in Detroit and are headed to the geologist headquarters. Be sure to gather the necessary vocabulary needed for your big presentation. Use your workbook to determine the vocabulary word that corresponds to the following definitions and record your answers in the geologist journal under final lock. When you are finished, unscramble the highlighted letters. All are going to be uppercase to access the geologist report. Record the password into your geologist journal. All right, so we have to fill these in, and then we have to then go ahead and unscramble the words we are close to getting out. Okay, so the process by which rock materials are broken down by physical and chemical processes. So broken down, rock materials broken down, I know, I'll just double check for the amount of letters. I believe that is weathering. Yep, that, whoops, let's try that again. So we know that the final puzzle is going to involve the letters T and G. Number 2 is going to have 8 letters. Fragments of weathered rock. Fragments of weathered rock. I believe that is going to be sediment. Okay, that fits. Let me throw these letters in here, by the way. T, G, S, E. Okay, the next, oh, this is a long one. The physical breakdown of rocks into smaller pieces. The physical breakdown of rocks into smaller pieces. So the breaking down of rocks is weathering, and because it's talking about physical, it must be physical weathering. So let's try that. It looks like it's long enough to hold that. Let's see. P, H, Y, S, I, C, A, L, W, E, A, T, H, E, R, I. Let's try that again. I, N, G. That fits. So the letter L. Man, this one looks pretty similar in size. Oh, it is the same size. The breakdown and decomposition of rocks. Okay, so that would be a type of weathering again due to chemical processes, chemical reactions and processes. That must be chemical weathering. C, H, E, M, I, C, A, L, W, E, A, T, H, E, R, I, N, G. Okay, so we have to add the letters I and G. Okay. Number 5, the process that moves weathered materials from one place to another. So the movement of those weathered materials, that is erosion. And so the letter O needs to go in there. Lastly, when eroded materials are dropped or laid down. So that is that's going to be where they're just set down. That is deposition. D, E, P, O, S, I, T, whoops, T, I, O, and N. So letter O. Let me make sure I have all of them. I do. So to unscramble the word, get the password hint, a person who studies Earth and its materials and processes. That word, I'm pretty sure, is, let me just double check, make sure I have the letters for it, G-E-O-L-O, yep, G-I-S-T, geologist. So let me go over to headquarters and hope to God that I have the correct word there, all caps, G-E-O-L-O-G-I-S-T. Awesome. Congratulations, you have reached the destination at the geologist headquarters. Are you ready for your presentation? Before you proceed, record your breakout time in your geologist journal. I have 8:46 a.m. Using what you learn, respond to the following in your geologist journal. I already did that. I already have my answers in here. Here at the bottom, I highlighted them all in yellow. When you're finished, please submit your geologist journal in Schoology under the Escape Activity assignment. So now that you have this, make sure that you have all the information that you need, save it, and submit it on Schoology. If you have any questions, come to my office hours on WebEx or send me an email. Do what you need to do.